Hey everyone, hi running coach and Hoke athlete, Sage Candidate here with another Training Talk Tuesday coming out on Sunday. Race analysis special edition here. I believe this is episode number 51 of the Training Talk series. My 1000th video here on the YouTube. After all these years, over a decade of YouTube videos, I believe this is my number 1000 for videos. So thanks for your continued support. Eliud Kipchoge world record today, this morning in Berlin. Amazing, phenomenal performance. Shout out to Chorus Global. He's my Chorus athlete, or I'm on the same team as Kipchoge, wearing the Chorus GPS watch. That is a sponsor plug, but really inspiring performance. Amazing to see. Of course, after the Breaking 2 project, he comes out and sets this official world record of 2:01:10, I believe, 2:01:09. I don't want to sell him short on the seconds there, but very close to 2:01 flat in an official race, real race, flat fast course, Berlin. Of course, I haven't run it, but I have run a lot of road marathons and transition to trail. And we're going to do some fun analysis and projection here of maybe what Kipchoge could run in, say, an ultramarathon, say not only a 50K or 100K on a road, but some of the most prestigious ultramarathon races in the world, like Comrades or Utmb, and what it means transitioning from the road marathon up to an ultra, especially like a mountainous ultra, like 100 miles in the mountains, like a Hard Rock 100 or a UTMB or even a Barkley or something like that. But all fun and speculation here. I don't mean to insult anyone. The greatest marathon runner of all time, basically. So let's dive right in. First of all, I'm a numbers guy. I like the science. I like the speculation, the data, the extrapolation. We plug in, Kipchoge's pace, Daniel's distance running formula calculator there. I thought maybe it would spit out some 50K or 100K projections, but I'll do that myself. We see a pace of 2:52 per kilometer, 4:37 per mile pace average now in a marathon. That's simply amazing. So fast, he's finishing all alone. World class, greatest of all time runner. Now this is a flat fast course, remember, and that's what you want when you're setting a time trial world record. If we extrapolate that to 50K, what we find, especially with elite runners, guys I guess I know that have run like 2:20 in the marathon, who've run 50K, is that you actually don't have to slow down that much with your marathon pace when you move up to the 50K distance when it's on a flat road. Granted, I haven't run a 50K road race, but the science and the math just works out that way, that we could say, hey, if Kipchoge had to go another 8K, if he had to go another 5 miles, how much does he really have to slow down? Well, he finished pretty strong there, right? He does have to slow down a little because it's a longer distance, but say he only has to slow down to 3 minutes per kilometer. Maybe he could hold 3 flat per kilometer for 50K, 2.5 hour 50K, right? So he's still running sub 5 minute mile pace for 50K on a road. So, 2:30 in the 50K. Well, what does that mean for 100K? Now we're still working on flat road surfaces, uniform surfaces. Those are important, especially when you're wearing super shoes and you're running that fast. You're getting, it's an efficiency thing. But 100K, we could extrapolate even more. And, he's going to have to take in more fuel. He's going to have to hydrate. He's going to have to change his running form a bit and slow down quite a bit to run 100K. But just because you're running twice as far does not mean you have to slow down a ton necessarily, right? When I ran track in college at the NCAA Division I level, the difference between my 5K pace and 10K pace actually wasn't really that much. And you could say, well, maybe I underperformed at the 5K, but I was just better at the 10K and even better at the marathon. And with elites, what you see is their half marathon and their marathon pace. There's a very tight window there. So, Kipchoge, whether or not he runs a 58 or 57 for a full out half marathon, it doesn't matter because he could almost hold 2 60-minute half marathons back to back. So he's literally coming through that half marathon, in a sub 60-minute time, which is amazing. But it's just a matter of minutes, and the margins are very tight at the elite level because every second matters, so to speak. So, up to 100K, we could extrapolate that 2:30, 50K and say, hey, maybe he could run a 5:40 something for 100K, right? Sub 6 hours. The world record, still, what is it, 6:01, I think now maybe? Correct me if I'm wrong. But he's going significantly under 6 for 100K. I would predict it. A lot of people say, oh no, the marathon speed, the fast guys, they burn out early. Someone of his caliber who's done the quality long runs, the high mileage, who could run so fast for a marathon, has a lot of endurance, is probably really efficient at burning sparing glycogen and burning fat, knows how to fuel and hydrate. If you know how to run a marathon fast, you know how to fuel and hydrate, at least at some level, and you've reaching your full potential, there's a good chance you could learn how to run 100K on a flat uniform surface pretty fast. Now, the most prestigious ultras in the world, people speculate, what could Kipchoge do if he got into the mountain ultra trail running scene? And there's a big difference between mountain and trail ultras versus road ultras, obviously. So we'll get into that now. But, 5:40 for 100K, does that mean he could run a sub 10 for 100 miles? 10 hours, 100 miles. Now, what I said with the prestigiousness and the frequency of racing these certain events is, the 100-mile world record is not as hotly contested maybe as the 100K world record, right? There's a 100K world championships on the road a lot of years, and that's produced a lot of really fast times, right? 6 hour 100K times, we're in the 6:30s for the women, and close to 6 flat for men. Some people time trial it on a track as well. Kipchoge would be very good on a road or a track if you extrapolate his marathon performances. But the most prestigious events aren't the 100-mile events. Whether or not he could run a sub 10 hour 100 miler, it's hard to say, but that would be more likely than him totally dominating and smashing 19 hours at UTMB, probably, in my opinion. Same thing at Hard Rock. Is he beating Killian at Hard Rock, right? Both Cora-sponsored athletes as well. So, that's a different skill set, and we'll extrapolate into a couple of those variables to end this talk. But the interesting thing there is that the most prestigious ultras in the world, in my mind, is Comrades. Comrades has, close to 20,000 runners a lot of years now. It's got the biggest prize money purse. You do get those 210, 208 marathon guys who run Comrades, and sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the 215 marathoner guy wins Comrades. And I'm just speaking for the men there. Obviously for the women, Gerda Stein ran sub 6 hours on an up year in 2019, and she's running the low 220s for a marathon, I believe. So marathon speed does matter at a certain level, especially at the elite level in any ultra. And this is coming from someone who's done any service, any distance, not always very well. I've suffered greatly at the 100-mile distance, for example, whereas I've survived some 100Ks and I've done better relative at 50-mile, 80K, and even 50K mountain race events. But that's just me, and n equals 1 sample size is a bad data point. You want n equals a ton of numbers. So sample size matters. Comrades has the field size, it has the competitiveness, it has a 100-year history, it's got the prestigiousness, and I think on an up year especially, maybe he's a better downhill runner, I don't know, but an up year, he's coming from these flat marathons. Up year at Comrades has quite a bit of rolling climbing, a lot of up and down, but where is he training in his training grounds? Those guys are running on rolling hills at altitude. I think he could handle Comrades pretty well and compete for the win there, for sure. But like I said, the marathon speed doesn't always guarantee you're going to win an ultra, but there's a very high correlation between marathon speed and doing well in a road ultra like Comrades, or even the 100K road championships or something like that. So most prestigious ultra, Comrades. Most prestigious trail race though, which happens to be an ultra, I'd say is UTMB, especially nowadays. It's relatively young compared to some other races, but it's got the prestige. It's a real legit mountain race, right? People consider like Western States a mountain race. A lot of mountain purists, especially from Europe, would not consider Western States 100 as a mountain race at all. It trends downhill. It's hard to get into. The field size is actually pretty small. Whereas at UTMB, you've got several thousand runners. Western States, less than 400 runners a lot of years. Hard Rock, even smaller. Barkley, way smaller, less than 100 runners, right? It's in a totally different realm. So Kipchoge at UTMB, could he win? Could he beat Killian, smash 19 hours? It's really hard to say. There's a lot more variables, obviously, in the mountain ultras and the longer ultras. 100-mile distance, running a 10-hour track 100-miler is basically half the time spent at UTMB, where if you're running a 20-hour UTMB, the duration's twice as long. Well, that extra 10 hours running at night, there's things that could go exponentially wrong with gear management. things like that that come into play. So I think there would be a big learning curve, and this is what we've seen a lot with roadies moving into the mountain ultra trail running scene, including myself. You know, you got to dial in your gear. You got to get used to running with a hydration pack that weighs quite a bit, right? With all the gear at UTMB, you have like a 4 or 5 pound pack, right? A couple kilograms of weight you got to carry, and you know, using trekking poles, power hiking more. It's hard to say how someone like Kipchoge, or even a guy that's run sub 2:08 in the marathon, will say. We've seen a lot of guys running, you know, there's been some guys that have run 2:10. There's been guys like Max King that have run 2:14. You know, my marathon PR is 2:16. Jim Walmsley's PR is 2:15. There's probably more guys that I'm not even thinking about on the world scene that have gotten into, especially sub-ultra mountain running. Like some of the other most prestigious mountain races in the world would be like Sierra Zinal or Zagama or something like that. But those aren't the long ultras, or those aren't even ultras. Zagama is a marathon 42K, and Sierra Zinal is about 20 miles, 32, 33K. So, you know, those are sub-ultra distances. How he does at UTMB, you know, in the mountains, I say it doesn't matter as much what the distance is. It's whether or not you're used to the steepness, and that means power hiking on the uphill, which is a different motor neuromuscular pattern than running 440, 437 mile pace on a flat uniform surface like a road or track. Using trekking poles, things like that, carrying the gear. The nutrition and hydration, I think he's pretty dialed in. You have to be to run such a fast marathon, but you know, running with a headlamp at night, it's a different skill set. The biggest one we usually see with roadies that really struggle on the trails, especially in the longer duration ultras, is not being able to just climb really well in the short term, but being a long range climber, a long range mountain climber. And that's what I found I've struggled with personally. Like, you could blast up a climb, you know, for the first 10 miles, 16K, short mountain races, vertical K, you survive. But after 50 miles, after 80K, are you still able to climb well? A lot of guys fizzle out, kind of. I've struggled with climbing after 50K, 50 miles into long ultra races. So you have to be a long range climber, and you have to be able to handle some technicality. And that's the biggest thing I'd say. You know, if it's muddy, if it's a super slippy course like Barclays in the cold, right? That's a scavenger hunt in the woods where you're route finding and slipping around in the mud, and probably, honestly, power hiking a lot of the race, right? That's a totally different event. You get into the western states, the UTMB, you're running a lot, but you know, there's still some technical bits at UTMB. It's pretty buffed out, but it's steep. It's steep for a roadie, right? So I think there'd have to be an adjustment curve there. And then Hard Rock is even quite a bit more technical than UTMB. I've been on about 60-70% of the Hard Rock course. That's a different skill set as well. I think Kipchoge with a high VO2 max, well trained, he's going to handle altitude well. He's going to handle the runnable sections really well. It's the technical stuff that I don't know. I'd have to see his form on. It comes down to your running form, your natural abilities. I think when you're so dialed to run so fast in something specific, like a flat uniform surface, especially in super shoes, it's a different motor neuromuscular pattern, a different form set to run technical trails, right? You look at like Kilian's form on technical downhills especially. Could Kipchoge do that or not? I don't know. I haven't seen him try. I'm sure he's run some hills though in training, and with that endurance, with that speed in the marathon, you have more wiggle room to get by running a lot slower of paces, which you have to in mountain ultras, especially 100 mile, 170K distance. So again, all fun and games and speculation. Comment below with what you think. Well, I want to hear what you guys think, your opinion on this. Could Kipchoge win UTMB? I think eventually he could. I think if he tried it, there might be a learning curve, but I think he could do really well. I think he could smash a ton of ultramarathon records across the board, 100K, 100 miles, 170K. I definitely think he could win Comrades. But you know, this is all fun and games and speculation. I don't mean to sell these. I don't want to limit him. No humans limited, right? Or Kilian for that matter. Because on the flip side, you say, what is Kilian Jornet? What could he run for a marathon? What could he run on a flat uniform surface? I think Kilian could definitely run under 2:15. I'm not sure if he could run under 2:10, but it would be a disservice to these incredible athletes to speculate too much. So I don't want to do that. Obviously, I'm kind of doing that. But yeah, it's all fun and games. Comment below, what do you think? What do you think Killian could run for a marathon? What do you think Kipchoge could do in the ultra scene? Maybe eventually he'll move up. I think we've seen a lot of fast roadies do that over the years. Any service, any distance, I love it. I think the marathon fitness definitely helps springboard you into ultras very well. And you know, when I ran some of my best mountain ultra trail performances, it was actually right after the Olympic trials in 2012, training specifically for the marathon and having that speed and efficiency, especially at the more runnable stuff. But it does come down to runnable. Variable running economy is what I like to call it, because it's variable efficiency on different types of terrain and inclines or declines when you transition. So again, thank you so much for subscribing on here, the Patreon supporters, for really making this channel possible. 1,000 videos, everyone. Wow, thank you. Over a decade, 12 years, 13 years of doing these YouTube videos on here, VO2 Max Productions. Subscribe if you like this. Stay tuned for more training vlogs, training, running tips, any service, any distance. Check out our training plans at higherrunning.com. We have our online running course, Sandy and I just launched, as well as membership and training plans for 5K, 10K, marathon, ultra marathon, you name it. Thank you so much. Again, shout out to title sponsor Hoka, keeping the dream alive. Shout out to sponsor Koros for sponsoring amazing athletes. And congratulations, of course, to Kipchoge. Just a phenomenal, amazing performance that really deserves a ton of respect and just, yeah, really inspiring to see. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.